Welcome to the Fatherhood Challenge program. The Fatherhood Challenge is a movement to awaken and inspire fathers everywhere to take great pride in their role and to challenge society to understand how important fathers are to the stability of an environment and culture. We're going to encourage and challenge each other to step up and do courageous things that make our families and communities better places. So let's get to it. Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. It's always good to have you with me. I have a great guest with me. His name is Tremayne Willis. We had some conversations some time ago, a few weeks ago, and picked his brain a little bit and found a great source of wisdom about the importance of fatherhood in the stability of the home and in the stability of children's lives growing up. And so he'll have a lot to share about that. So Tremayne, I appreciate you being on. Thank you so much for all of your time and making this effort to be here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I totally appreciate it, Jonathan. Thank you.
Just true to our tradition, we like to start out with a favorite dad joke. Did you have one that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I do. Actually, my children gave me one and my wife gave me one that she likes to say all the time for some reason. My children say, why do fathers like to take an extra pair of socks when they go golfing? And I say, well, why do I need an extra pair of socks? They say, well, in case you get a hole in one. I said, okay. All right. All right. Yeah. And for some reason, my wife said I should do lunges to stay in shape. I should do more lunges. And then I said, well, that would be a big step forward. And that's it. Okay. And that's about it. Right.
I'll give that a rim shot.
All right.
So let's go ahead and talk about why do you believe society is ignoring fathers?
Well, I'm in the real estate and financial institution. And so I think I want to come from that perspective a little bit more, because for society to break up the homes and to set it up to where fathers are not in the diametric home, where it's father, mother, children, it's better for business, for one, just coming from that point of view, just coming from a financial point of view. It's just better for business. It's better for big business. It's better for the governments. And it's worse for the homes. However, where I believe fathers are ignored and why is because of the way our children are being raised or have been raised to think about relationships. And I think that's what's worse. So when fathers are young now, they're so much younger than, I didn't have children until I was 40 years old. And fathers are so much young now, and they are raised to not even think about relationships and households and marriage and stuff. It's all about instant gratification. So it's easier for the women to ignore that whole part of a relationship. And for the fathers that are there, that are trying to be good, whether they're in the house or not, I think they just get bushed into the same group as the ones that don't care. So they all kind of get ignored all the same, it seems.
That sounds correct to me. I think that you have a very different slant on it that I've never heard before, and that was the economic slant.
Yes.
So why is it that ignoring fathers, how would that be better for business?
Oh, well, because when you're ignoring fathers and you're removing like fathers from the home, where it's not a family situation, where women are now being also kind of like men, so to speak, and I don't like to say that, but kind of being like the so-called men of the homes, where they're raising the children, and they'll be more lenient, they'll be more relaxed with raising boys, with raising children. They'll be more apt to, because women are more emotional. So when there's problems in the homes, we go to emotion. So you go to emotional shopping, you go to emotional spending. You're more relaxed with the values as far as nutrition are concerned. So, a lot of the homes that don't have fathers in the homes, it's about fast paced because women are working, so children get to kind of eat what they want. So they're falling prey to the televisions, and the televisions are saying cereal, fast food, Mickey D's, and this and that, shoes, get this, get that, and women are more without a full dynamic of a mother and a father in the house thinking together, so economically, putting together, managing money together. They're more apt to just do things that society says, hey, buy. Of course, we know every month of the year there's some holiday that you can go out and buy. New Year's Eve, March, you got Mother's Day, you have Father's Day, you have Halloween, Christmas, it's just something every month to buy. And women are more emotional, and women being more emotional, and that just kind of trickles down into the household when there's not that dynamic there to say, hey, let's manage money. And I'm not saying fathers in the house will make it perfect, but if you have a mother and a father in the house, then their mentality and their mindset is going to be a whole lot different. They're going to be more apt to think financially, and be more frugal, et cetera, et cetera. It's just one big psychological. It's just one big psychological game, and the absence of fathers and men inside the homes is a direct reflection of that spending, that emotional spending, of allowing children to have what they want when they want, the video games. You know how expensive all this stuff is, and yeah, it's definitely a correlation.
What was life like for you growing up as a kid, and how involved was your dad?
Okay, well, I didn't have a father. Life, I was extremely poor. I grew up in Georgia. I live in the north coast now, but I grew up in Georgia. Extremely poor, from a poor family, poor background, and didn't have a father, so didn't really have a involved dad or father figure for a long time. I eventually found a father figure, but not for a long time. So life was pretty rough for me. My mother was an extremely young mother, to say the least. She was barely 13 when she had me. So she was an absolute child herself, struggling to take care of a child. So yeah, it was pretty rough, moving a lot. My mother's trying to maintain any, job she could get as a child because she didn't want to. First of all, she didn't want to abort me like everybody told her to because she was a child. And she said, no, I won't do that. I have my child and I'm just going to do the best I can. So we struggled a lot growing up. Yeah, it was pretty rough. Moved a lot. Yeah.
What impact did that have on you as you were growing up into older years with that lack of stability?
I think as a child and not kind of seeing my mother, not intentionally, not viewing her as my mother, but I viewed her more as my sister than anything at the time, growing up. And once I was getting a little bit older, able to get outside, and unfortunately, not a whole lot of people around me that I can remember had fathers in the home either. So it was almost as if I didn't miss it because it was rare that we had one or two buddies that did have a father in the house. And so I didn't really miss it, but I knew that it was something. I saw the benefits of having a man in the house because those guys were a little bit different in a certain way. They respected a lot differently. And I think I learned my respect from them because of the respect factors and the things that they learned from their fathers. I guess I was searching for something, but the lack of it just made me look for fathers in the wrong place, in the streets. Look for father figures that weren't qualified to be those father figures, and it just made me make some bad decisions growing up. I think that was the biggest effect that I think it had on me. Yes.
So was it Did you have anybody else in your life to step in as you were headed into trouble to kind of guide you out of that?
No, not really. Most of my women, most of my family is, for the most part, I know, women dominated. Uh, I kind of stayed off and on with my grandparents. So my grandfather and my grandmother were together in the house, but when I stayed, and then my sisters came along, we had to stay with them. There were, you know, 8 other children in the house, and then it was an impoverished house, and my grandmother and grandfather were both hearing impaired. Neither one could either talk or hear. They were deaf, and so they're just understanding of raising us, and it was really weird. It was just so many children. They had all their own children there, and I was there, and eventually my sisters and I, back and off and on, kind of stayed with them, and we were poor, and my I don't know. At that point, I started suffering some physical abuse from my grandmother, and my granddad never really stopped it. And I was always questioning that, like, why would she? I was older than 2 of her sons, so I was older than 2 of my uncles. I was like their uncle. I was like their big brother. And if anything happened to them, if they got hurt, I got beat. If they got beat up or hit in school, I got beat by my grandmother. And I just never understood that whole dynamic. My mother kind of explained it to me later on in life, kind of what that was about. But I used to wonder why the man in this house wouldn't stop that. Like, why do you let her beat me with 2x4s and hit me with irons and baseball bats, and for essentially nothing? And why do we have to stay here? I couldn't understand, why my mother's not here. Why my mother's not? Because she wasn't staying there, but she was trying to work to get us stable again, to get us back into our own little apartment or something like that. And it was just a lot to handle. It was a lot to handle. So I really didn't have any other men to look up to.
The bad decisions, how did you overcome those decisions?
Well, the bad decisions were that eventually, and let me clarify what one of the bad decisions was. Eventually, what moved into the neighborhoods were now gangs, bigger, more people, and it was just like, hey, I'm trying to get this education. And, I promised my mother, I had a conversation with my mother, a 15-year-old having a conversation with his mom saying, listen, I don't want to be one of those guys in prison back and forth, in and out. I'm not going to be that. I kind of promised her that too. And what I saw was, okay, like the gangs, once you are a part of it, you just can kind of do what you want to do. So I was saying, okay. So I became affiliated because my cousins, they were from California, and they had came here back and forth. And it just, the decision was, my cousin say, I tell you what, man, you just run this portion of the gang here. I'm a 15-year-old, and most of these guys were grown. These were grown men for the most part, and 18, 19, 20, 25. And you can, continue doing what you do, go to school, do this, just make sure this is cool here. And I don't know why I thought that was a great, I thought at the time that was a great decision. I can still go to school, I can graduate, and I can be left alone, not worry about having to get, hurt, my family being hurt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because at this point, people started shooting up people's houses and hurting family members. So that's what I didn't bring home. And so I thought that was a good decision. And how it turned out not to be a good decision, because one day as we were just out, doing our thing, a few of us were out just walking, I don't know, maybe going home late in the evening, an incident arose where it was a vehicle involved, and like a guy almost tried to hit me in the van, and some words exchanged. One of the guys that me said, hey, I know the guy in the van, I know him, and I know we cool, just go ahead. This guy was a much older guy, he was a grown man. I had just turned 17 at the time, just turned 17. And so we parted ways. Long story short, the guy came back, jumped out of his vehicle, he attacked me with a weapon. I disarmed him, and I hit him a few times. What he attacked me with, he went to the ground. A couple of guys with me, did some things, jumped on him, hit him, whatever the case may be. And the guy, and we left. We left. And one of the guys was about to get into his vehicle to bag it up over him. And I stopped. I grabbed him. I'm like, yeah, no, we're not gonna do that. He's down. He's cool. Let's go. And so we left. And about 2 or 3 days later, apparently he went to the hospital. The guy, and apparently he was brain dead. From the hitting, from the kicking, from the stomping, from the bricks, different people doing different things, and he was brain dead, and his family pulled the plug, and so he died. And about 3 days later, 3 or 4 days later, hey, here they come. They came to my house. I wasn't there at the time, but once we found out what was going on, what happened, we talked to the family, and they said the best thing to do is to, go turn yourself in. You're a juvenile. Tell them what happened. It was self-defense. You defended yourself. Once you disarmed him and you hit him, you dropped the thing. They said just tell the truth. But I was the only juvenile of all the guys there. Everybody else that they caught was in the county jail. They were grown men, and so I was in juvenile, and basically I guess they came up with the brilliant plan to say, well, since I'm the only juvenile, let's just say that he did everything because he's a juvenile and he won't get adult time or he won't get prison time. And so they all did it except they blamed it on me and one of the other adults. They flipped on him as well. They kind of said he did this and he did that. And so long story short with that, we went to court and it was a jury trial, and the charge was aggravated murder. And the judge gave the jury the option to no option. Just, if we get found guilty, we doing life. And because I got bound over. I didn't mean to skip that part, but I got bound over. They held a hearing in juvenile court. They bound me over, and so now I'm in the county jail, the adults. And so we were in the court. We had our hearing for a couple weeks, jury trial. Right before the jury was to be dismissed to deliberate, they only had one thing: either guilty or not guilty. And if it's guilty, we're going to prison for life. And the jury, one lady stood up and said, well, we've heard everything, we've heard everybody's side, and we will say we need an option because we've heard everything. We heard this young man's side, and we believe he did what he said he did. He defended himself, he dropped the thing, blah, 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 blah. So the judge gave the jury an option: either life, murder, or voluntary manslaughter with a different sentence from 10 to 25. So they came back and they said not guilty for the murder because it just wasn't that. It wasn't like they said we felt we weren't out just looking to hurt somebody, And so I did get found guilty of voluntary manslaughter, and I received a sentence of 10 to 25 years in prison at 17 years old, and got shipped straight to prison. So that's what I mean by those bad decisions that I made. That's what they led up to.
I hope you're enjoying the program and getting value out of it. It's a labor of love and faith supported by listeners like you. Please consider donating by visiting thefatherhoodchallenge.com and clicking in the upper right corner and clicking on Donate. Another way you can support this program is by sharing it with anyone who would appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Was there anybody in prison that took up the role of a father figure for you or a mentor and helped you grow up?
Yes, man, I am so glad you asked that question because this is a very pivotal part. Very pivotal part of my life. went there young, actually I went to, the first prison I went to was just like a warriors camp. It was for all young people and juvenile. So I wanted to finish and get my GED. I was focused. I said, well, I'm here now. Doesn't mean I have to become, I don't have to become this environment. I can be who I need to be or who I am. I can get back to my essence. So I wanted to finish my GED, just couldn't there because it's fighting all the time. A bunch of young people. So anyway, put in for a transfer, and I got transferred to more laid back, where there were older people. Some of those people had been on death row. That got off death row. That's how some people have been in for 20 and 30 years already. So I was there, and got my GED. I started going to college. I was teaching sign language, just doing anything to stay constructive, to keep my mind engaged, reading books, getting Ebony, Essence, Jet magazines, reading, just reading books, just reading. And met Wayne Farrell, Mr. Wayne Farrell, who is still in today. I think he's probably maybe on his 50th year right now. Still in, and yeah. And he just awesome. Like, he had a couple nephews that were blood nephews there, but the dude was just like a father that, like, everybody that wanted to learn something, he made you read. He taught. He was a coach for sports, and he didn't just coach, man. He would do like Phil Jackson type stuff, write little notes, and just send them to your cell and say, read this book. You can't practice if you don't know this quote for the day. It's like a self-help quote, self-productive quote, and what do you want to learn next? He stayed on everybody that wanted to do something. And like, to this day, I still write him. I send him some money when I can. And just, he was pivotal. He said, when you get out, man, you don't have to worry about what's going on with Black relationships and husband and wife. You learn right now how to be the best father, husband you can right now. He said, don't wait to get out to learn it, because you will get out one day. He said, so don't wait to get out. Learn it now. Read now. Be who you are going to be in the future. You have to be that person right now. You can't be somebody here and then expect to change when you get out. You have to be that person inside the belly of the beast. That's the only way to be true to yourself when you get out. And then just for I think I was there for 11 years or so at that particular institution. I ended up doing about almost 13 years total in prison. So I went in I just turned 17. I got out when I was 30, maybe 31. So my whole childhood was there. All my teenage years, my 20s, I grew up there, and I'm fortunate to have met and been, just under the wing of a man like that. Totally Wayne Farrell, never forget him. Totally appreciate him. Love him, actually.
When you were out, was it hard to start over and be that good husband and father that your mentor had encouraged you to be?
Yes, because everything was so much different. Of course, you went from tapes to, CDs. Everything was totally different at that point. And it was like the cell phones and everything. We had the big old brick phones when I went in, just coming out. Now it's cell phone, flip phone. Yes, because then old people that I knew from before, from the past, hey, it's the same old. They just wanted to be the same way. Get you some clothes here. Do you want some drugs to get on your feet? No, I want a job. Can you give me that? No, I don't want. Here go some girls. No, I don't want that.
What advice or wisdom or challenge do you have for fathers today after hearing your story?
And I know typically you would think that, I guess most men would say something towards their children, right? But I want to say to the fathers too, because this is where I think we're going wrong in our decision making, even as adults, as adult fathers, as adult males. We have to back away from accepting what a societal norm is. We have to back away from just accepting the perception of what society says a bad father is, or what a father's not doing. We just accept that and then start reacting that way to the mother, their children, or wives or ex-wives. I say, be stronger in your decision making. Be stronger in what you want and be stronger in who you are and what you want to do, and stand firm to that and follow through. Because what you want to teach your children, we say it all the time, children do what they see, not what you say. If you want to teach your children what a strong man or a father is, even if you're not in the home, that's what I tell like a lot of guys that I know, even if you're not in the home with your children, what you do is what they're going to learn. So just be stronger, be more steadfast, be more firm in what you actually want to teach them, because you actually have to do it. That's what I would give to fathers. That's the words I would give them. To stand by that.
That's some great wisdom, Tremayne, and I appreciate so much that you took the time to be here and share this with me, to share this with our audience. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
I totally appreciate it. Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed the episode and receive value from it, there are 3 ways you can support the program. You can donate by visiting thefatherhoodchallenge.com and clicking in the upper right corner and clicking on donate. Thefatherhoodchallenge.com also has a store where you can find great gift ideas for others or yourself while helping to spread the word about this movement. Word of mouth and sharing through social media also helps make others aware of this program. Any way you're able to support the Fatherhood Challenge is appreciated. Thank you for listening.